Mahalo as we look at OKO Wrist Lock number 3. It's going into the Orange Belt curriculum. Once again, it is a opponent's right hand to our left hand grab from 12 o'clock from the front, our green zone. Left foot is going to be slightly forward, pre-position number 2. As he comes in and grabs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, number one, create space and an angle for me to continue the rest of the technique by gauge legging. I'm going to pull and strike at the same time. This push-pull action, as he's grabbed, is going to pull his head down and in, and it's actually going to create what we call borrowed force. It's going to create the acceleration into my strike, into his face, preferably the eyes. Once again, from the beginning, grabs my wrist, step out, pull and push. As I circle up, I'm going to, with my right foot, up clock, getting away from his second weapon. I'm going to grab his wrist with my left hand and support that with my right, pointing his fingers into my chest and pulling him down. As he goes down to his knee, then I can follow up strike with a kick to an open target, or continue the lock as I drop my height and bring him down to the ground, and then follow up from there. Once again, pre-position number 2, step, pull and strike. Up clock, rotate into the fingers and down. Kick, cross, and cover out. With that, stay tuned for the concepts and principles in OKO Wrist Lock number 3. As we discuss concepts and principles in OKO Wrist Lock number 3, once again, like 1 and 2, a lot of these concepts and principles are shared throughout the wrist lock series. So the first one, as we see, is modifying our opponent's height, width, and depth. This is going to be, once again, consistent throughout the wrist locks, the arm locks, the punch counters, the grab counters. What I want to do is, as if I'm the opponent, I'm grabbing your left hand with that push and pull, the very first motion with the step. I want to affect the height and the width, the depth of our opponent. Height and the depth, and then comes the strike. What then happens? Naturally, his hand comes up to protect his face because he just got poked in the eyes. After that, we see the wrist lock being created as you go up the circle, exposing the elbow. Then, as you're pressing with your left hand onto his wrist, it affects the 6-point lock. Once again, when we talk about the 6-point lock, let's count the joints in our arms specifically. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Our goal is to get the majority of those in our locks. So as I'm rotating that arm, I've already gotten 4 points contact right here. I'm now engaging the elbow, and then as you continue to bring his head lower than his shoulder, it locks the shoulder. The whole point is, with most of these arm locks, and including the wrist locks, the idea of getting his head below his shoulder to engage that lock from the fingers all the way to the shoulder. Once again, we have the up clock, the pizza slice. To get to the opposite side of our opponent, once again, if I have my fists out, we have the outside, the inside, and the outside. I want to be on the outside on my opponent in this case to cancel the second hand. And also, as we notice here in wrist lock number 3, like with wrist lock number 2, introduces that concept of re-grabbing. He grabs my wrist. I'm going to circle up and then re-grab. Let me grab this stick here as an example. This is his right hand grabbing my wrist. As I bring it up, I'm going to cradle his wrist in the web between my thumb and my first finger, and it allows me then to re-grab his wrist and then to continue the technique. My other hand comes up to grab the wrist. I can press his pinky finger into my sternum and then to be able to wrench and press down. Also, as continuation in this series, we also have the distraction strike. Mess with the computer is sometimes it's called, or mess with the noggin. We need the distraction strike to allow us to give us the time for the wrist lock. So once again, that's why it's the first motion. I'm going to pull. We've got our push-pull to pull him in to this either spear hand, four-finger compound poke, whatever weapon you want to use to distract him. As he can't see what you're doing, all of a sudden he's in this wrist lock. Once again, this has been the concepts and principles in OKO Wrist Lock number 3. Stay tuned for number 4.